listening to the Holy Bible 1-Year Challenge with Master Storyteller Michael Wood, featuring the easy-to-read version and used by permission from Bible League International. Enjoy the show!
Hello everyone, welcome to day 186. We're continuing in the book of 2 Kings. And Jehu is now the king of Israel. As you remember, God made him king, and he forcefully advanced his kingdom. And now, it's time to clean house. It's time to fulfill God's command, and that is to remove all of Ahab's family. But the problem is, Ahab had 70 sons. Yes, that's 70. 70 sons. It's a lot of death. And then, if you put together all the Baal worshippers who are in the hundreds, well, that could potentially be mass murder on a scale Israel has never seen before, especially from their own king. But if Jehu kills hundreds of people, how would God feel about this? Did Jehu overstep the line here? So stay with us to find out how God reacts to Jehu's house cleaning. And we are also continuing in the book of Acts. Paul is before Felix, the Roman governor. But of course, the Jewish send their best guys, their highest and oldest leaders, as well as an attorney to press charges against Paul. And Felix gets to hear their argument, but he also gets to hear Paul's argument. And he later says he will come back and make a decision. If you enjoy the show, visit me at patreon.com/storymaster. You'll find the link in the description box below. By contributing as little as $1 per month, you will enable me to continue this ministry, and you'll get cool rewards too. Together, we're going to get through the Bible in 1 year. Let's get started. 2 Kings chapter 10. Jehu writes to the leaders of Samaria. Ahab had 70 sons in Samaria. Jehu wrote letters and sent them to Samaria to the rulers and leaders of Jezreel. He also sent the letters to the people who raised Ahab's sons, saying,
As soon as you get this letter, choose the one who is the best and most worthy among your master's sons. You have chariots and horses, and you are living in a strong city. You also have weapons. Put the son you choose on his father's throne. Then fight for your master's family.
But the rulers and leaders of Jezreel were very afraid. They said, 2 kings of Israel could not stop Jehu. If they could not stop him, neither can we. The palace manager, the official in charge of the city, the leaders, and the people who raised the king's children sent a message to Jehu. We are your servants, and we will do whatever you tell us. We will not make anyone king. You may do whatever you think is best. Then Jehu wrote a second letter to these leaders. He said,
If you support me and obey me, cut off the heads of Ahab's sons. Bring them to me at Jezreel about this time tomorrow.
Ahab had 70 sons. They were with the leaders of the city who had raised them. When the leaders of the city received the letter, they took the king's sons and killed all 70 of them. Then the leaders put the heads of the king's sons in baskets and sent the baskets to Jehu at Jezreel. The messenger came to Jehu and told him, They have brought the heads of the king's sons. Then Jehu said,
Lay the heads in 2 piles at the city gate until morning.
In the morning, Jehu went out and stood before the people. He said to them,
You are innocent. Look, I made plans against my master. I killed him. But who killed all these sons of Ahab? You killed them. You should know that everything the Lord says will happen. The Lord used Elijah to say these things about Ahab's family. Now the Lord has done what he said he would do.
So Jehu killed all the people in Ahab's family living in Jezreel. He killed all the important men, close friends, and priests. None of Ahab's people were left alive. Jehu left Jezreel and went to Samaria. On the way, he stopped at a place called Shepherd's Camp. There he met with the relatives of King Ahaziah of Judah. Jehu asked,
"Who are you?"
They answered, "We are the relatives of King Ahaziah of Judah. We have come down to visit the king's children and the queen's mother's children." Then Jehu said,
"Take them alive."
Jehu's men captured Ahaziah's relatives alive. There were 42 of them, and Jehu killed them at the well near Beth Eked. He did not leave anyone alive. After Jehu left there, he met with Jehonadab, son of Rechab. Jehonadab was on his way to meet Jehu. Jehu greeted Jehonadab and said to him,
"Are you a faithful friend to me, as I am to you?"
Jehonadab answered, "Yes, I am a faithful friend to you." Jehu said,
"If you are, give me your hand."
Then Jehu reached out and pulled Jehonadab up into the chariot. Jehu said,
"Come with me. You can see how strong my feelings are for the Lord."
So Jehonadab rode in Jehu's chariot. When Jehu came to Samaria, he killed all of Ahab's family who were still alive in Samaria. He killed them all. He did what the Lord had told Elijah. Then Jehu called all the people together and said to them,
"Ahab served Baal a little, but I will serve Baal much more. Now call together all the priests and prophets of Baal, and call together everyone who worships Baal. And don't let anyone miss this meeting. I have a great sacrifice to give to Baal. I will kill anyone who does not come to this meeting."
But Jehu was tricking them. He wanted to destroy the worshippers of Baal. Jehu said,
"Prepare a special meeting to honor Baal."
So the priests announced this meeting. Then Jehu sent a message through all the land of Israel. All the worshippers of Baal came. No one stayed home. The Baal worshippers came into the temple of Baal. The temple was filled with people. Jehu said to the man who kept the robes,
"Bring out the robes for all the worshippers of Baal."
So he brought out the robes for the Baal worshippers. Then Jehu and Jehonadab, son of Rechab, went into the temple of Baal. Jehu said to the worshippers of Baal,
"Look around and be sure that there are no servants of the Lord with you. Be sure there are only people who worship Baal."
So all the worshippers of Baal were inside the temple to offer sacrifices and burnt offerings. But outside, Jehu had 80 men waiting. He told them,
"Don't let anyone escape. If you let one person escape, you will pay for it with your own life."
As soon as Jehu had finished sacrificing the burnt offering, he said to the guards and to the officers,
"Go in and kill the worshippers of Baal. Don't let anyone come out of the temple alive."
So the officers drew their swords and killed the worshippers of Baal and threw their bodies outside. Then the guards and the officers went to the inner room of the temple of Baal. He brought out the sacred pillars from the temple of Baal and threw them into a fire. Then they smashed the sacred stone image of Baal. They also smashed the temple of Baal. They made the temple of Baal into a public toilet, which is still used today. So Jehu destroyed Baal worship in Israel, but he did not completely turn away the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who caused Israel to sin. Jehu did not destroy the gold calves at Bethel and in Dan. The Lord said to Jehu,
"You have done well. You have done what I say is right. You destroyed Ahab's family the way I wanted you to. so your descendants will rule Israel for 4 generations.
But Jehu was not careful to follow the law of the Lord, the God of Israel, with all his heart. Jehu did not stop committing the sins of Jeroboam, who caused Israel to sin. At that time, the Lord began to cut away sections of Israel and give them to other nations. King Hazael of Aram defeated the Israelites on every border of Israel. He won the land east of the Jordan River, all the land of Gilead, including the land that belonged to the tribes of Gad, Reuben, and Manasseh. He won all the land from Aroer by the Arnon Valley to Gilead and Bashan. All the other great things that Jehu did are recorded in the book, the history of the kings of Israel. Jehu died, was buried in Samaria. His son, Jehoahaz, became the new king of Israel after him. Jehu ruled over Israel and Samaria for 28 years. 2 Kings chapter 11. When Athaliah, the mother of King Ahaziah, heard that her son had been killed, she made plans to kill anyone in his family who might become the next king. But one of Ahaziah's baby sons, named Joash, was kept alive by his aunt, Jehosheba, who was Ahaziah's sister. Their father was King Jehoram. When Ahaziah's children were about to be killed, Jehosheba took Joash and hid him in a bedroom with his nurse. Athaliah never knew that he was there, so Joash was not killed. Joash stayed hidden with Jehosheba at the Lord's temple for 6 years. During that time, Athaliah ruled as queen over the land of Judah. But in the 7th year, Jehoiada, the high priest, sent for the captains of the army and of the Carites and the palace guards. He brought them together at the temple of the Lord and made an agreement with them. He made them promise their loyalty with an oath, and he showed them the king's son. Jehoiada told them, "This is what you must do. 1/3 of you who are on duty on the Sabbath day must guard the king's palace. Another third will be at the sword gate, and the other third will be at the gate behind the guard. This way you will stand guard over the palace on all sides. Your 2 divisions who go off duty on the Sabbath day will stand guard at the Lord's temple and protect King Joash. You must surround the king and stay with him wherever he goes. Keep your swords ready to kill anyone who comes too close." The captains obeyed everything that Jehoiada the priest commanded. Each captain had all his men together. As the men in each group came off duty, they stayed to join those who were coming on duty. They brought all these men to Jehoiada the priest, and he gave the captains the spears and shields that had belonged to King David and were kept in the Lord's temple. The guards stood in a line around the temple and the altar from the right side to the left side. Every man had his weapon in his hand, ready to protect the king. Then Jehoiada brought out the king's son Joash and put the crown on his head. He gave him authority to rule and announced that he was the new king. They anointed him, and everyone clapped their hands and said, "Long live the king!" Queen Athaliah heard the noise from the guards and the people, so she went to the Lord's temple to see them. There she saw the king standing by the pillar where new kings usually stood. The captains and trumpeters were standing beside the king, and all the people were shouting for joy and blowing trumpets. When Athaliah saw all this, she tore her clothes to show how upset she was. Then she shouted, "Treason! Treason!" Jehoiada the priest gave an order to the army captains. He said, "Go, take Athaliah away and kill her.
Surround her with soldiers and kill anyone who follows her.
He had already said that she must not be killed in the Lord's temple. So the soldiers grabbed Athaliah and killed her as soon as she went through the gate where the horses enter the palace area. Then Jehoiada had the king and the people make an agreement, promising that they would be the Lord's people. Jehoiada also made an agreement between the king and the people. Then all the people went to the temple of Baal. They destroyed the statue of Baal and his altars. They broke them into many pieces. They also killed Baal's priest, Mattan, in front of the altars. Jehoiada placed guards at the Lord's temple. Then he called together the army captains, the Carites, and the palace guards. They led the king from the Lord's temple to the king's palace. They entered the palace through the guard's gate, and King Joash took his seat on the royal throne. All the people of Judah were happy, and Jerusalem was at peace, because Queen Athaliah was now dead. She had been killed at the king's palace. Joash was 7 years old when he became king. Acts 24, verses 1 through 27. Charges against Paul. 5 days later, Ananias, the high priest, went to the city of Caesarea. He brought with him some of the older Jewish leaders and a lawyer named Tertullus. They went to Caesarea to make charges against Paul before the governor. Paul was called into the meeting, and Tertullus began to accuse him. Tertullus said,
Most honorable Felix, our people enjoy much peace because of you, and many wrong things in our country are being made right through your wise help. For this, we all continue to be thankful. But I don't want to take any more of your time, so I will say only a few words. Please be patient. This man is a troublemaker. He causes trouble with the Jews everywhere in the world. He is a leader of the Nazarene group. Also, he was trying to make the temple unclean, but we stopped him. You can decide if this is all true. Ask him some questions yourself.
The other Jews agreed and said it was all true. The governor made a sign for Paul to speak. So Paul answered, Governor Felix, I know you've been a judge over this nation for a long time, so I'm happy to defend myself before you. I went to worship in Jerusalem only 12 days ago. You can learn for yourself that this is true. These Jews who are accusing me did not find me arguing with anyone at the temple or making trouble with the people. And I was not making any trouble or arguing in the synagogues or anywhere else in the city. These men cannot prove the things they are saying against me now, but I will tell you this. I worship God, the same God our ancestors worshiped. As a follower of the Lord's way, which these Jews say is not the right way. And I believe everything that is taught in the law of Moses, and all that is written in the books of the prophets. I have the same hope in God that these men have, the hope that all people, good and bad, will be raised from death. This is why I always try to do what I believe is right before God and before everyone. I was away from Jerusalem for many years. I went back there to take money to help my people. I also had some gifts to offer at the temple. I was doing this when some Jews saw me there. I had finished the cleansing ceremony. I had not made any trouble, and no one was gathering around me. But some Jews from Asia were there. They should be here standing before you. If I have really done anything wrong, they are the ones who should accuse me. They were there. Ask these men here if they found any wrong in me when I stood before the high council meeting in Jerusalem. I did say one thing when I stood before them and shouted, "You are judging me today because I believe that people will rise from death." Felix already understood a lot about the Lord's way. He stopped the trial and said, "When Commander Lysias comes here, I will make a decision." Felix told the army officer to keep Paul guarded, but to give him some freedom and to let his friends bring whatever he needed. Sometime later, Felix came with his wife Drusilla, who was a Jew. Felix asked for Paul to be brought to him. He listened to Paul talk about believing in Christ Jesus. But Felix became afraid when Paul spoke about things like doing right, self-control, and the judgment that will come in the future. He said, "Go away now. When I have more time, I'll call for you." But Felix had another reason for talking with Paul. He hoped Paul would pay him a bribe. So he sent for Paul often and talked with him. But after 2 years, Porcius Festus became governor. So Felix was no longer governor, but he had left Paul in prison to please the Jews. Psalm chapter 80, verses 8 through 19. When you brought us out of Egypt, we were like your special vine. You forced other nations to leave this land, and you planted that vine here. You prepared the ground for it, and it sent its roots down deep and spread throughout the land. It covered the mountains, and its leaves shaded even the giant cedar trees. Its branches spread west to the sea, and its shoots spread east to the Euphrates River. God, why did you pull down the walls that protect your vine? Not everyone who passes by picks its grapes. Wild pigs come and ruin it. Wild animals eat the leaves. God all-powerful, come back. Look down from heaven at your vine and protect it. Look at the vine you planted with your own hands. Look at the young plant you raised. Our enemies have cut it down and burned it up. Show them how angry you are. Destroy them. Reach out and help your chosen one. Reach out to the people you raised up. Then we will never leave you. Let us live, and we will worship you. Lord God all-powerful, make us as strong as we were before. Smile down on us and save us. Thank you, everyone. That was day 186. Join us for day 187. We're continuing in the book of 2 Kings. Joash begins his rule in Israel. Remember, he's the 7-year-old boy. But believe it or not, his reign lasts for 40 years. He's been ruling Israel practically his whole life. And during that time, he orders the temple of the Lord to be repaired. And he saves Jerusalem from Hazael. Then Jehoahaz begins his rule in Israel, and the Lord has mercy on Israel. Then some amazing things happen at Elisha's grave. You'll have to join us to find out what happens. And in the book of Acts, there's a new governor in town. His name is Festus. And Paul asks to see Caesar, the ruler of the Roman Empire. But Governor Festus does some investigating on his own as he asks King Agrippa about this Paul. We hope you enjoyed today's verses. Be sure to leave us a positive review and to share this podcast with your friends and family. Please join us for the next episode as we experience the Bible in 1 year.
Did you know we offer online courses in creative writing, literature, and web design? Visit us at storymaster.online to learn more.